Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome and thank you for joining me at the Over 40s Lounge, where we discuss everything that is of interest to those who are in their 40s and beyond. My name is Uche, as you can see from the screen, and today I have a guest with me, Sarah Wilson, who will be discussing how in her 40s she discovered what her passion and her purpose was, which is definitely exciting. So please feel free, if you're watching this, you can comment live, and if you have any questions for Sarah, I'll put them to her and she'll be able to answer you as we go through. So Sarah, today we
Hi.
want to discuss how you opened up your not your mentor, keep saying mentoring, your coaching school, your coaching business during a pandemic. So please tell us what led to all that. Just tell us a bit about yourself as well.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Lovely to see you here today. So the life coaching kind of just fell into place, which is how I suppose I felt that it was really aligned and it was the right thing to do at the time. So I had at the time been coaching within my current job and my previous job, so for about 4 years at the time. And then during the pandemic, my corporate job was becoming a part-time role instead of a full-time role, which at the time really affected me. But I think it was just a push that the universe wanted to give me that I wouldn't have necessarily made for myself.
Yeah.
So I decided that in order to make up some of the money between me working part-time and full-time, I could make some money maybe opening my own coaching sessions and practice. So I got all the education in place and did that, was intending to just sort of help 4 women a week. And that would be enough to sort of fill the gap and what have you. But 4 quickly became 12. And
Wow.
as time went on, my job became more and more toxic for me. I was getting more and more poorly. But doing the coaching was like pressing my reset button. Doing the coaching was very much like, actually, I love this and this is where I want to be. So my now husband has been really, really supportive of me following my goal. And mental well-being became this thing that people started to talk about more. So I think that in itself kind of did help a little bit. And then in March of this year, I was able to give up my toxic corporate job and do this full time. So I have jumped in and yeah, this is what I'm doing now, which I'm just so in love with. It's a real passionate area of my life and so important. There's so many women out there who have suffered at the hands of toxic parents and toxic adult relationships. And it's a really, really, really interesting insight as to how our childhood story then ends up becoming something that we copy into our adulthood, but that actually healing from that and moving forward is hugely possible as long as you've got the right support in place in order to help you do that.
Okay, so what was it that was making your work environment toxic?
So I'm very much, I like to work with people. I like to work, I'm very authentic. I'm just me, I'm just who I am.
Yeah.
And it became apparently clear that this company were very different in terms of my thoughts, feelings, values, beliefs. So, for example, there was quite an element of racism. There was definitely a big element of sexism. That women were there just to do somebody's bidding as opposed to being empowered. We weren't allowed to network. There were lots and lots and lots of things that happened, and everything was very much like a blame culture. So if something went wrong, it was immediately looked for the scapegoat. I didn't really like that environment, and I certainly struggled massively with the whole racism and sexism side of things, and these very strong views of few people who had enormous amounts of power in the company. And for me, that was something that was a real difficulty to watch and listen to, and not be able to say, oh, hold on a second, that's not okay, for the fear of losing my own job over standing up for other people. So that was generally what made it hard.
Wow. And did you try raising your concerns? How were you treated, or how are people treated in general when they try to raise their concerns?
If you raised your concerns, you were leaving. It was as simple as that. So if you came out and said anything, then essentially you were looking at it being the door.
Wow, look at that.
So I did look for other jobs, but the pandemic, also what I was doing was quite specialist, but the pandemic just meant that lots of people weren't hiring, recruitment doors were sort of closed. Everything was very in a state of unsurety in terms of like what businesses were going to survive, what businesses were struggling, blah, blah, blah. So moving job was not an option. So despite exploring that, there wasn't anything I could do, which is why I'm so glad I found the pathway that I did, because then it meant I didn't have to worry about that side of things.
Okay, so you finally launched and took the step to launching your own coaching business. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, a lot of it started actually when I was on holiday. So when we go on holiday each year, I take it as a time to reflect and work out what I want, and where I want to do it and what changes I want to make. So obviously knew at this point that the coaching thing was a go. The family was supportive. So I've got 2 teenage children as well. And they were like, yeah, absolutely, you should definitely go for this. So everything at first was very much me doing it myself. So I learned a lot on the way. So I was the one who designed my logo. I was the one who designed my company name, tag name, did all the applications for making sure the business was set up formally and officially, did the accreditation with the company, took on as much as humanly possible, did lots of courses and things like that just to work out, things that I could do and incorporate. But a lot of it was looking at my own past and working out, right, what experiences have I had? How can I help other women and inspire them in the right way? What experiences have I had with therapies? What worked, what didn't? And the biggest thing for me was that everything was very standalone. So you could have CBT, you could have mindfulness, you could have coaching, you could have counselling, but nobody seemed to kind of be putting these things all together in a way that was accessible for lots of people to be able to benefit from all of that coming together. So for me, counselling was amazing, but once I'd had the counselling, it was all out there and I had nowhere to put it. So for me, it was about making sure that if somebody was talking to me and counselling out what had been going on, actually then they were able to process it and put it sort of right at the back of their subconscious and not have to keep bringing it out again, rather than going on these cycles, which is what I was doing, which was endless cycles of counselling every couple of years, which felt great at the time, but then they'd get to a point where you're like, I just need to do this again. And for me, that was not the most empowering way to work. So I wanted to put something together that brought together lots of different things. And also the other feedback that I was getting and had experienced myself is that, particularly through the NHS, it's one size fits all. But how can one size fit all when we've all got a very slightly different story? So for me, it was also about making sure that everything I did was this highly personalised journey for the women that I was helping that was really specific to them. No worksheets, no try this because everybody else has done it and it worked, but what do I think will work for you? What, drawing that information out and listening to how you speak and what have you. What can I make sure is really specific for you? If I utilize this particular strategy, how can I massively personalize it so it's relevant and feels like something you can do? And so those were the most important things for me, really, in setting it up, was utilizing experiences of myself and others.
Okay, so with the women you interview, I can hear some feedback there.
Oh, I don't know why.
Oh, it's not here. But no, nice. I'll keep going. So with all of the women that you've not interviewed, you've coached, what do you find the main issues are?
So the main issues are generally childhood, that they had difficult relationships with one or both parents or parental figures in their childhood, that they have, for a lot of them, have still got contact with these parents, don't feel that they can completely cut them out of their lives, but have no idea how to deal with them. But don't really get, until we start working together, how much that what they saw in their childhood in terms of adult relationships, so what their parents were like together or their parental substitutes, how much of an impact that has had. So if they had really negative dialogue when they were young, when they were really young, why that's now impacting them now in their adulthood, in terms of the fact. So for me, I had toxic relationships with my parents, certainly from about 11 to probably about 28, 29. And then that's when I sort of start to put some boundaries in place. I didn't get, until I was sort of doing the work, that actually, of course, I wasn't set up well to have adult relationships because of what I'd seen. Because no matter whether we think it's good or bad or indifferent, a lot of people have experienced very difficult childhood situations, but go on to repeat those in their adulthood, even though they know how much they hated it themselves in their childhood. And helping them to understand where their story started. Actually, it will have started years and years and years ago before they think it has. That's a real light bulb moment for a lot of women who are just like, oh, right, okay, now that I've got some understanding, now I can make choices about what I've understood. And you know, a lot of them are petrified of getting involved in another relationship because they've attracted a whole string of really, really, really awful relationships that have been terrible for their mental well-being. It might not have been traumatic, but certainly toxic. And that ongoing issue with internal dialogue based on what they're hearing. So, you know, if you've got somebody who's saying, you're not worth anything, you're lucky to be with me, you know, count your blessings that you have me, nobody else would want you. If you've had that throughout your childhood, through teenage angst, and now in your adulthood, of course that's going to be something that you continue because that's your normality, but it doesn't have to continue throughout your life. And if you do the internal work and the healing and the understanding of the past, actually amazing things can happen for your future. So a lot of the women that I've worked with are very much like, you've changed my life. My life is so now phenomenally different to what I had before because I've started to believe in myself, because I've realized that I'm worth more than what these people want to offer me. Because now I know, because I also talk about dating as being a real strategy around it. Like, we put phenomenal amounts of work into getting a new job, for example, but you might not make phenomenal amounts of work before you even think about dating. Lots of women don't. They just go into dating thinking, oh, well, I'll see what happens. But if you don't put your order into the universe, then how are you going to know if the person in front of you is what you need or what you should be asking for? So it's like, it's a whole process, but it's just such a beautiful journey to take women through, to go, actually, this is what you can have. And the outcomes aren't necessarily just resulting in relationships. Sometimes the outcomes are moving forward in their career or their job, or recreating boundaries with parents and other friendships that they've got, or honing down the relationships that they've got with their friendships so that they're more about, these people are their tribe now, as opposed to just these people who utilize them all the time and make them feel really unwanted. They give, but they don't get back. And it's about how to sort of re-establish those relationships so that they actually can feel that they are in a partnership friendship, as opposed to they're the one who always ends up with a friend that's let them down. They're the one who always plans everything. They're the one who initiates the contact. So it's not what started out as being about adult relationships ended up being actually about every relationship in your life.
It's interesting. I was listening to you speaking there because I remember there's this young lady. I was so shocked when she told me, because I thought she was quite a well put together, smart young woman. And at the time I was speaking to her and her husband were going through a divorce. They're now divorced, but she was saying, like, when they were talking and like getting to know one another, he actually said to her, I don't love you. But somehow she still ended up getting married to this guy. And I said to her, well, wouldn't the fact that he said to you, I don't love you, indicate that this is not the person you should be getting married to? But somehow she didn't see it that way. She just really wants to get married more than anything else. She hadn't done the work, as you were saying. So I remember having conversations with her and other people. You've got to do the work. You've got to know who you are, what you're about, what baggage are you carrying. Deal with that baggage whilst you're single. Don't just, be so desperate to go into a relationship, because it's not like, you can't, this person can't necessarily carry what you're bringing. You've got to heal yourself. They've got to heal themselves. And when you come together, it's a great relationship. We've got to do that work. They wouldn't listen to that. And she ended up marrying a guy who told her to her face he did not love her at all. They were arguing on the wedding day. It was just stressful on the wedding day, but she just wanted to be married more than anything else.
And I think that there's these points, these destinations where you're going to magically be happy. Like, if we get married, actually it's going to be fine because he can fall in love with me later. Or maybe I'm not worthy of that love in the first place anyway. But it always astonishes me, the things that women will go through simply because they have never been taught how to have any belief in themselves. And it's so sad when actually there is so much opportunity for them, but they just can't can't see it. And I hear stories like that all the time, where they end up with people who, there were horrific red flags, but what they did instead of pay attention to the red flags and move away from that relationship is they just got out their green paint and just paint that red flag green, and then all of a sudden it's all okay. But you know, actually red flags are there for a reason. I'm really sorry if you can hear some noise in the background. My 14-month-old puppy is currently ripping up a blanket.
They're fine. We won't hold that gaze. It's fine. Don't worry. So tell us about your other Facebook group, Healing Her Toxic Past. What made you set that up?
So it took me a long time to decide what my niche was. And I think it was because I didn't feel that I'd gone through all the steps of the story. So I'd done the toxic relationship with parents work. I'd done toxic relationship with adults work. But the one thing I hadn't done was release my ex-husband. I hadn't released him from the resentment and hatred I felt for the emotional abuse that he put myself and our son through. And for me, it didn't feel like I was in a position to say, come to me, I can help you through all of this, until that had happened. And oddly enough, it was only August time that all came together, and we'd been apart for 12 years, so I'd held on to that resentment for a really, really long time. And it was just through doing some other work, and I realized that there was going to be no magical day when I suddenly went, oh, I hated him yesterday, but now it's all right today. And I realized that it was kind of like the onion unlayering. So when I actually finally got to the stage where I could do that, and I meant it, and I actually told him, you know, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have this story. If it wasn't for the whole of this story, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So actually, you've massively contributed to me being able to help other women and change other women's lives by what we went through. And I'm grateful to you for that. Obviously, yes, of course, I wish that, you know, some of those things hadn't happened, but releasing isn't about condoning somebody else's behavior.
That's right.
Release is about an internal process for you, which I'd never really got until sort of August time and what have you. So the Healing Her Toxic Past was set up purely because I then felt I'm enough steps further forward than lots of other women that actually I'm ready to set up this group. So set it up. It was all sort of done very authentically. Everything was about, does this feel like the right way? Does this feel like the right post? Does this feel like the right direction? And invited obviously some people in. Had been very open to friends that if this does not resonate with you, I know that you love and support me, but don't join the group. I wanted women in there who actually it really resonated with, because I wanted it to be a warm space, safe space for them to come and share their story when they feel ready to. And the group's grown massively. And the focus of the group is a relationship that may or may not have had trauma involved in it as well, from your past or your present, that is affecting you in other areas of your life. Because if you've had those toxic relationships that now are stopping you from getting a promotion at work, or are stopping you from getting a new healthy relationship and what have you. So for me, it was about bringing those people together, bringing those beautiful women together to say, actually, you're not alone. All the people in this group have got some element of story. What was really interesting, though, is although I'd been very upfront with friends, lots of them then started coming out saying, actually, Sarah, this is relevant to me. And actually, every group I've spoken to, every set of people I talk to about what's happening with me has resulted in somebody joining that group, at least one, sometimes a lot more. I went to a networking group last week where I ended up with a bunch of people joining my page who weren't even at the networking group, but women will go and talk to other women about what they've heard and experienced. And so as a result of that, I had other women reaching out to me saying, somebody's just come back from this meeting and told me about you. I think that would really resonate. Can I join your group? So the group has grown in such a gorgeous way, just by women sharing their story and sharing with other women in their lives who know have had difficulties. Actually, this could be a really good space for you. And it's been this really safe space. I did have some massive backlash from men about it being a women-only space.
Interesting.
I said, I'm quite happy to set up a men's space if you can get some people together who say that actually, yes, they've experienced it too and they would like to, then I'm absolutely happy to do that. Radio silence. Absolutely nothing
Interesting.
back from that. But they were quite happy on sort of general pages where I was sort of advertising this space was to be very anti the fact that this was a women's group. But it's important to me that it's women only. They need to feel safe. They don't need to feel that there's other people in there judging them. And sometimes, yes, women can judge other women. I get that. And I don't tolerate that on the page at all. Not that I've had any experience of it, even a tiny bit yet. But for me, it was about, I don't want women to feel that they've got to hold back because they know that there's men in the group as well. So for me, it's very important. It's a safe, warm, welcoming, friendly, women-only space.
Just backtracking slightly, when you said you spoke to your husband and you said to him, you thanked him basically for being a huge part of where you actually are now with regard to this group, what was his response to that?
His first response to that is that sarcastic?
Okay.
I was like, no, it's genuine. He went, I'm not entirely sure what to say, but thank you, I think. So we didn't have a massive conversation about it. He was quite surprised. I don't know whether it was surprised because he didn't realise that I still held on to anything from that anyway, or whether it was surprised because he's actually never, ever apologised to me for what happened. He says he doesn't remember the incidents because they were when he was drunk, and therefore he had no memory of those, which for me always felt like just not taking ownership and responsibility.
Yeah.
But the release was for me. The release wasn't for him. So in a sense, it was important to me to send that message, but the response wasn't going to make a difference or matter or what have you. I did think maybe he would be like, well, where's that come out of now, or why would you still be holding any resentment now anyway, and what have you, because we're both in a much better place. Obviously we still have to have a relationship because we have a son together, but I'm quite excited about the point where I can just say, right, that's between you and your dad. I don't need to be part of this anymore. But yeah, that's where we're at.
So let's just say somebody wants to sign up for your coaching course, not your course, wants to be coached by you. What's the next steps? As I say, someone watches this think, actually, I like what Sarah's saying. I'd really like to work with her. What can they expect?
Okay, so what can they expect, or how can they contact me?
No, what can they expect? I put your links in the thing. So what can they expect from working with you?
Okay, so there are two main options, which is one-to-one coaching or group coaching. The group coaching is generally through the Healing Her Toxic Past page. The one-to-one coaching, obviously some people come through there as well because it's relevant to them. But the one-to-one coaching is very much, it's via Zoom. So you can be snuggled in your pajamas, or if it's later in the day, you can have a glass of wine or whatever you want. So it's somewhere that's comfortable for you, so you don't have to worry about finding a venue or parking or anything like that. And what I do is I create a really warm, friendly, safe space where you feel that you can open up, where you feel that you can bring your story to me to help you sort through it. You're the one who brings the story. I'm the one who draws it out. And whilst we're drawing out the story, I look at strategies that will help you to process that properly, process it so that you can work out what the learning is from those situations. You can release and forgive, which is a big topic that we talk about anyway, about that being very much an internal thing for yourself, not about it being necessarily for the other person. And then we create this whole toolkit of strategies that are very specific to you. Most of it is around sort of journaling, and I will teach you how to journal properly in order to sort your headspace out, because you cannot sort your head out in your own head. It needs to be out. It needs to be in black and white to do that. So I'll teach you things that you can do, and lots of other strategies, so that everything is processed, everything is sorted, everything is put back here. You've released the things that you need to. You've taken the learning and the ownership and responsibility where you need to do so in order for you to move forwards. And what happens is you end up with this amazing set of strategies that you can use in your life going forward. We work together for about 3 months roughly. Obviously I don't ever know how long somebody's journey is going to take, and it includes counselling skills, coaching skills, strategies, mindfulness, cognitive behavioural therapy, emotional freedom tapping, and anything else that I think would be highly relevant for helping you heal and helping you to move forward. Because if you're in that position at the moment, you probably feel stuck, like you can't even move forward at the moment. But we just create a beautiful pathway, a beautiful journey, and a bit of a life plan as to what your future looks like, so that you can feel just completely fulfilled in what you're doing. And also that your relationships that are surrounding you are the kind that boost and support you, or that you've got a clear mindset about how to deal with those people. If actually, let's say, for example, they're family members that you can't cut out of your life, but you just want to have them in a place where you don't feel massively affected, then I help you build on that as well.
Excellent. Okay, so all links connected to Sarah Wilson are in the description box, so please feel free to click on those if you want to take advantage of the services that she offers. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate everything you said. I've taken a lot in. I'll go back and listen to it again afterwards. I really do thank you for that. There haven't been any questions come in, so people are just like able to digest what you're saying, or they probably want to contact you and talk to you themselves. But thank you so much for giving up your time. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's lovely to come and chat to you and just explain what I'm doing and where I've been.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. And everybody, thank you for joining me. Take care then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.